Hello and welcome to Nequet Connection. My name is Amanda Eldridge, and joining me today is community beekeeper Mrs. Lorraine Herr. Mrs. Herr, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Amanda. It's a great Friday. What about you?
The first question I want to ask you is, how did you get interested in beekeeping and how did you start?
Yeah, so I became interested through a coworker of mine at work. He and his three daughters were hobbyist beekeepers, and I loved talking to him, in the halls at work about what was happening with their bees, how they were harvesting their honey, how they were marketing and branding and labeling their jars for sale. And it was just a really interesting process. So I was kind of captivated by his stories.
When did you start beekeeping?
I can't hear you. I can't hear can you repeat the question?
When did you start beekeeping?
Oh, great. So I got my first beehives in 2015. And so I've been beekeeping since then in my backyard here in Naperville.
And then could you tell me a little bit about the process of what you do?
Sure. So when I started, I didn't have any bees. So I had ordered a hive. Actually, my husband had ordered a hive as a Christmas present from a catalog. And so I had everything I needed. I just didn't have any bees. So I looked around and found a couple of companies that sell bees and queens for new beekeepers or for new hives. And so I ordered a package of bees and it was delivered by UPS. And I will never forget, like seeing this shoebox size package of bees that the UPS guy dropped off on my front vestibule and listening to the buzzing that was going on in there. And then just kind of the terror and excitement of taking that new package of bees and putting it into my first hive.
A lot of people don't really know about that bees can be shipped in a box. I sure didn't know that. What is your favorite thing about beekeeping?
I really enjoy learning more about how bees work together. If you think that, a hive is a series of boxes that are stacked on top of each other, and each additional box is essentially like a new story on a building, there could be easily 10,000 bees in each box. So you could have a hive with 4 or 5 boxes and have, 50,000 bees in that. And it's really fascinating to think, like, how do these creatures all know how to work together? Who's responsible for what? How does this all work? It's interesting just to kind of study them and watch them. And one of my favorite things to do on a warm day is to just go outside with a nice chilly beverage and watch them coming and going in and out of the hive. They're so industrious.
So what is your exact setup like?
So I started with one hive my first year, and I grew to 2 and then 3. So typically I have 3 hives. But what happened early this spring was I was out doing yard work with my younger son, and he was noticing a swarm of bees in the air, and they'd come into our yard and landed and congregated on this one tree branch. So he came in and grabbed me, and we kind of watched the swarm for an hour or two until they all came to rest on the tree branch. And then Holden and I worked together to capture that swarm in a big cardboard box. And I quickly set up an empty beehive, and we were able to, to relocate them and establish them in a hive.
So you actually collected your own bees this year?
I did, and it's great because I didn't have to pay for them. And then also too, I'm finding them a home, so they could potentially find a home in the wild, but this way, I know that they're more protected and they've got a good setup.
Do you plan on continuing beekeeping for a long time?
I do for the near term. I'm a hobbyist with usually just, 2 or 3 hives in my backyard, but it still takes quite a bit of work. I was out for 2 hours yesterday taking care of a couple of the hives, and I've got more work to do tomorrow if the weather will let me. But I enjoy it. 2020 was really hard because one of the funnest parts of beekeeping is inviting friends and family over to help with the harvest, where in each of those boxes that make up different stories of a beehive, there are pine frames where the bees will store their honey. So each of my boxes has 8 different frames, and those frames weigh almost nothing when they're empty, but when they're loaded with honey, they're 9 pounds each. So, those boxes are super heavy, and it's fun to get together with friends, uncap the frames, like take the wax off the top of the frames, and then put the frames into a centrifuge and essentially spin the honey out while leaving the honeycomb intact so that the bees can use it again the next year. It's just super rewarding, and I'm so excited to have a harvest in 2021.
So how much honey do you actually get from your hives? Because I know we've gotten some of your honey before and it's delicious.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I certainly enjoy sharing it. I usually get, and again, I had to grow my business, but the last time I harvested in 2019, and it wasn't a banner year, I got 5 pounds off of 3 hives.
A pretty decent amount. So relating to what you're talking about with the big time commitment, what is the hardest part or thing about beekeeping?
So for me, the hardest thing about beekeeping is, understanding the threats to the bees. So you may have heard about colony collapse disorder. Another big challenge for bees are the varroa mites that are basically like ticks that come in and feed on them. And so managing the mite population so that the bees aren't done in by it is one thing. So to me, that's the biggest challenge.
Would you recommend for more people to learn about or get involved with bees, even if it doesn't mean beekeeping, but just to learn about them?
Yes, because so much of our fruits and vegetables and nuts are pollinated by bees. So if we wind up losing bees, we're going to wind up losing some significant portions of our agriculture. And, we know that the bee populations are diminishing. We know that there are challenges to the bees. And we also know that we've got killer, hornets coming in from different countries. So I think the more people that understand the pollinators, whether they are bees or, butterflies, it's really important to know how they fit into our ecosystem and, how they make our lives that much better.
So what is one thing you want more people to know about bees or beekeeping in general?
What do I want more people to know about bees and beekeeping? I think from my perspective, one of the things that I like to share most with people about beekeeping is that you can have one hive, and you can have one hive almost anywhere, including in a city, on a rooftop, on a balcony, in a suburban backyard. And it's great. It makes your yard look better, makes your vegetable garden stronger, and it's just good for everybody that lives within a 3-mile radius of you too.
And so has your bee season started this year?
So it started well. I wound up with an extra hive last year, and so I had 4 hives that I overwintered, and 3 of them made it through, which was fabulous. And then early this spring, I had a wild swarm come in, and I was able to capture that. So we've got 4, and they're doing well. I checked a couple of hives yesterday, and I'm going to take a look at the other 2 on Saturday and just see how they're doing. But the queens are busy laying eggs, and they're packing away some honey in there.
Well, perfect. I wish you best of luck with your bee season this year, and thank you for joining me. That is all the time we have. This has been NEQA Connection. My name is Amanda Eldridge, and thank you for watching.